Pretty serious project and pretty kind of hardcore fantasy, almost RPG-like, and it wasn't fun.
Because we just finished Spyro, and we knew, because Universal owned the rights, we couldn't go on with Spyro anymore. We had to do our own thing, so we had to come up with the next big thing that would mean the survival of the company. So it was a big moment for us, a turning point.
I mean, going from several years where we had just been making sequels to a brand new IP on a new platform was the big challenge, especially since we made the decision to try to move away from platformers.
So I thought the inspiration for I-5 was kind of Tomb Raider meets Zelda. There was a book, I think this thick, somewhere in the studio that was like the whole design, or maybe it's this thick. That's the design Bible for I-5, to track that down.
We really realized we had to get a head start because everyone would be finishing Spyro, rolling off, and then doing what? And there was a lot of pressure because it took the entire studio just to finish a game. And I mean, it still does. But then we knew we had to start the new game, so that was a really challenging time. 10 years ago, I remember Insomniac, we were in one big room.
Yeah, I think when I joined there was 25 people, and then it was 35 for Ratchet 1, and like went to 70 for Ratchet 2, and then 100 and something for Ratchet 3, and R1.
1,000 now.
Yeah, I know, it keeps going.
What were you doing 10 years ago, James? Algebra?
Something like that.
And I think we were all looking for something different because we've been working on Spyro for years, and we just didn't. We were thinking we got to branch out.
We didn't want to do too cute anymore.
Yeah.
We had multiple round tables where everyone would get together and pitch, and I think it was Al's idea because he put the most effort and research into. He'd researched all this stuff in mythological Africa or in Africa, and he blended with African mythology.
It did transfer. It was the young African boy. It was the Mayan guy. It was then later the girl with the stick, and she was a young girl. I think at one point she was kind of like this dark-haired, short, like 10-year-old girl, and then she kind of started to age.
Yeah, she became, I think we realized that she was too generic looking, and then we started experimenting with a very tan girl with white hair, with runes and stuff on her arms that would start glowing when she did her katas, and the katas were her way of unlocking the magic. And maybe this isn't correct, but I recall most of our enemies in the I-5 test had underbites. And all of our creatures in Spyro had it. The Norks were all, and it was just a design that we liked.
And I think we had a very conscious line we drew where they couldn't have technology. The houses and buildings were lashed together with vines and poles, and things were built out of rocks with thatch roofs. So very, very different from Ratchet, and away from Spyro, which had castles and other fantastic things that way. This was much more kind of primitive, I guess, with magic.
I remember we talked about her sticking a staff in the wall and being able to twirl around and leap from one location to another. Her tattoo would glow bright blue whenever she would dance a kata and get a new spell, and there was like these kata symbols, I think, that were on the stone rocks or on the ground that would glow when she danced.
We had one mechanic where she could, to get through walls or locked doors, she could turn into smoke and pass through kind of bars or whatnot. I don't know if we ever got that off of paper, but it sounded pretty cool.
Something else that happened with that project that probably wasn't as apparent at the time was that we hit this no man's land in terms of our art style, where we were going from Spyro to something that we professed was for a mature audience, and it ended up, looking back at the videos, pretty darn cartoony still.
The character changed so many times. I think people just had a hard time. Every single time you would do something and then have to, a couple months later, redo the whole thing, you just lost a little bit of energy on the project.
I just remember working on a map for I-5, and I was making these little fine adjustments, and I kept getting this creeping feeling that this was all pointless. So all those little minute things here and there. I was moving the enemy a little bit to the left, and the project actually got canceled that day. My sixth sense kicked in.
Honestly, I thought Sony was really magnanimous about the whole thing.
They were very nice about it. No question.
What they said specifically, and I recall this pretty vividly, was, "Hey, look, if you guys want to release this, you can. We will support you. However, we don't think that there's going to be a market for this game."
Yeah.
but we'll support you. And that was cool. And for us,
Yeah,
it
it
was
was.
it was the right approach, because I think had any publisher come in and said, we don't like this game, we just don't like it, we're going to cancel it, we would have fought back hard. This way we had to kind of look inward and say, okay, well, they're telling us this, and wait, half of the team really doesn't like this game anyway, so they're right. We should do something different.
I remember driving home from work the day we canceled, and it felt so good. I felt so light, and like I could do anything, and this weight had just been taken away from us. And I think that made me realize that tough decisions aren't bad decisions. They're just that they're the right decision. And I think the whole studio came back to work the next day and just like dove into the new project, and it was awesome.
I think that's a big lesson that we all learned, is that you can be really close to something, but if it's just not working, and repeatedly you're hearing from your team that it's not working, that sometimes it's just best to kill it, move on to something new.
We spent so much time on paper and discussions and arguments about the game, and if we had just started making it and playing it, I think we could have learned those lessons a lot quicker, and that's something we've really committed to now, and it's making things a lot better.
And I kept on thinking, God, did we do the right thing? What are we going to do next? Because at that point we hadn't, come up. Brian hasn't suggested Ratchet yet, and we were going to be back in this limbo of not having a game design. However, as you guys pointed out, it was nice coming back in and knowing that everybody, or most people, felt relief and like we had a fresh start, and we had just kind of saved ourselves from a pretty awful next 2 years.
We think back about that with mixed feelings, like some happy feelings that we kind of dodged a bullet, and some sad feelings like what could have been, and so just when you say go for this thing, it means something to us, and we needed something, and there it was.